and welcome to day 2 of our coverage of the SAP BusinessObjects User Conference. We're thrilled to have a full day of interviews to bring to you today, so make sure to tune in. And we have a great panel to start out with today. We have Jamie Oswald, Michael Welter, and Dave Rathbun. Jamie and Dave are SAP mentors and ASUG volunteers, and Michael is an SAP BusinessObjects consultant. So thank you so much for joining us, and we're going to talk about the very hot topic of business object skills. There seems to be some discussion and some disagreement in the marketplace over whether there's truly a business object skills shortage or whether there's just different criteria that customers are looking for that they're not really going to find or that clients aren't really going to meet. So we're going to have that discussion this morning. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
So Dave, why don't you start out by giving us a little history lesson here? Is there really a business object skills shortage, or is it a little bit more nuanced than that?
Well, I think if you look back over the number of years that Business Objects has been in the market, when they first came out as a very simple product, a very simple company, you didn't need a lot of skills to say you were a complete business objects expert. You needed to know how to build a universe, you needed to know how to build a report, and that was pretty much it. So it wasn't too hard to find somebody who could pull those kind of skills together. As Business Objects has progressed through acquisitions of Crystal and then ultimately the acquisition by SAP, the product suite has expanded incredibly, and you just can't become a true business objects expert anymore. There's too much.
Would you gentlemen agree?
I certainly would. I can't even keep up with all the products that they have. Some of the times I hear about products that they have that I've never even heard of. So they have so many products, nobody can be an expert in all of them.
Right. And yesterday Steve Lucas said during his keynote that there's not going to be one product to rule them all. So I mean, we can see coming down the line that this is going to be the strategy SAP is going to take. What do you think are some of the most important skills to foster right now, though? What do you think, Jamie?
So, to me, I think being able to translate from business user to SQL is probably the biggest skill set that a business objects person needs, right? So, you have to be able to build reports, you have to be able to build universes to feed those reports, but it's really about taking that analysis in and being able to turn it into something technically. That's where we really add value for our companies.
What do you think, Dave?
I think it makes sense. You've got to, and one of the reasons why I like to do universe stuff and why I've kind of focused my area of expertise in that area is for just what Jamie said. I get to talk to the business and learn what they need, but I still keep my feet a little bit in the technical side of things as well, talking to the DBAs and the modelers and the architects. So I might not necessarily know how to do all of those things, but I know enough to ask the right questions or say, this is what I really need to make the business solution work.
So Michael, how does BI4 change the skill set?
I'm not sure that it does. I think there's enough new stuff in BI4 that those people who are currently business objects experts are going to certainly have to step up their game and learn a lot more, but I don't know that it's going to change the skill set necessarily. In addition to the universe stuff, I also think that there's a lot of administrative stuff that needs a lot of skills that have to be available in that, and I think that there could be a shortage in that area. Because administering the system is critical to making it work as well, and I think that's a very needed skill set in the business.
So Jamie, you had heard something a couple of weeks ago that SAP HANA was going to really decimate business objects jobs, and there was a lot of discussion on that over the Twitter sphere and whatnot. Weigh in on that for us. Yeah,
so I was actually at lunch with somebody who doesn't really do anything SAP, and he said that his boss said that HANA was going to, put a lot of BO and BI people out of a job. And, to me, they're going to need us twice as much, right? Because there's not going to be, the idea is that it's really real time, but somebody still has to define all of those connections, all of those business rules and apply them technically. And honestly, it's going to be a lot harder because it's going to go straight against the transactional database instead of the analytical database. So it's, I think we're going to be more in need for us SQL jobs.
So that guy's boss was wrong.
I think so.
Yeah, what do you think? Dave?
It's an interesting concept, and SAP has taken different approaches on how they are pushing this, because when they first came out with HANA, that was one of the things they pushed, was the collapsing of all the different layers and bringing us that much closer to the transactional data. And a lot of folks out there with big investments in BW and all that kind of stuff said, well, wait a minute, we're not quite ready to throw in the towel. So SAP backed off a little bit, but that's still the message. I think they've just kind of pushed out where they're going to try to fully implement that and maybe let it happen more organically than pushing it onto the marketplace. But as far as what it does to the job market, I think I'm going to agree with Jamie in that it's not necessarily, it will eliminate some jobs, but it's going to create a whole bunch of new ones. So I don't think there's a net loss of opportunities there.
Now, what about on the other side of HANA, especially for the legacy business objects customer base? It seems like Sybase IQ has really been something that this space has been wanting to hear more about. Is there a push to gather skills around that database as well?
Well, I think one of the beautiful things about business objects is that once you have the skill for Oracle or DB2 or Microsoft SQL Server, you have the skills for HANA or Sybase IQ, because the tools really make the layer below it irrelevant, right? I mean, it's still all SQL, it's still all joining tables, it's still all applying business rules. And it's, we don't care what we report off of. We just have to go figure out what people want.
Right.
I actually had a client years ago that used Sybase IQ, and I had no idea it was a column database at the time. It didn't matter. I had a universe, I had reports, I ran SQL. There you go.
There you go. So what would you sum up as being some of the most important skill sets for people to build going into 2012? Would they be around HANA? Would they be around BI4? What do you think? We'll go down the line here.
All right. So I think getting up to speed on BI4 will be very big, because I think there have been a lot of SAP customers who will finally be ready to jump into business objects because of the tighter integration available in BI4. And it really is a pretty different set of tools now than it used to be. So I think focusing on BI4 would be a great place to start.
I think that BI4 is going to enhance the skills needed, and I agree with Jamie here that it's going to need a lot of additional skills, but I think that another skill that's going to be needed is the migration from the older versions of business objects up to BI4. It's not going to be a simple migration. It's going to take some effort, and I think there's going to be some need for expertise in that area as well.
I'm going to go back to something Jamie mentioned about talking to the business. I think I had a conversation with a gentleman a long time ago about he wanted to get into business objects, and he asked me what kind of skills did he need to perfect in order to do that. And I pointed out to him he was coming from the business side. I said, you need to keep your business skills up, because business objects ultimately is just a tool. And the tools are going to change. The 4.0 structure being different obviously is one case. HANA is another new tool that we have in our toolbox, but ultimately it's all about providing value to the business. So I think if somebody was going to ask me today how to get into this industry and what skills they need, I would have that same answer. Get your business skills first, and then find the tool that fits whatever your needs are, whether that's business objects, whether that's HANA, whatever you like.
All right, well, thank you so much. That's some great advice for our listeners. Next up, my colleague Tom Wilgum will talk with Nick Strauss from T-Mobile about training users on business objects. Stay tuned.
Thanks.